I know people probably already know that money is behind why towns are ignoring egregious things going on with immigrants, but I just want people to see it with their own eyes so people can't say, oh no, that has nothing to do with it. Then you can have a reference. I'll put the link in the description of this video. Department of Homeland Security announces $300 million in direct funding to communities receiving migrants and $340 million for a new competitive awards process. This was dated April 12, 2024. So places like, just for example, Springfield, Ohio, who were repeatedly, over and over and over, allowing the immigrants to cause harm and risk of danger, such as driving around with no license, repeatedly ignoring the safety of others, causing many accidents, and even in towns nearby. So I'm going to show you the police chief of Tremont, Ohio, which is a town close to Springfield, and he's, they've kind of ignored him. Finally, the media gave him his voice to, say his opinion what's happening. He's been doing interviews with YouTubers, but the media pretty much has been ignoring him because they don't want people to know what's happening and why. So this reporter, she's going to give him his voice, which should have been done already. This guy, you may have seen him on YouTube. He's outraged that, just for an example, he described that a guy is doing 44 miles an hour in 25-mile zone, and he, for the second time in 2 weeks, had to tow his vehicle, and he didn't even have a driver's license. And he said that basically they're not dealing with him. They're letting him do repeated violations because they don't want to deport people. Because basically the more people they have in their town, the more money they get from the government. And this is the problem with these programs that give money and have no accountability, and they are just greedy. These towns are greedy. So, and then of course these immigrants know that they're not going to do anything to them because they're getting money, and they know. They're not dumb, This is the chief of police for that town, and he's outraged that these unlicensed Haitian drivers are causing harm. Meanwhile, most of the media are just lying and saying, oh, he's being racist, while black people's voices who are being harmed are just completely ignored. Oh, and if you're a black person and you are complaining about being victims also, oh, well, you're a racist. I mean, literally, you can't make this stuff up. This is what they're doing. So basically, recipients in terms of providing additional flexibilities and an opportunity for new recipients through the competitive program. So last year they gave away more than $780 million that was awarded through this program. And so they streamline and improve access to work permits for eligible non-citizens, which basically, the housing issue in Springfield is that the landlords are greedy. They want that voucher for these immigrants, but they just basically kick out the locals, and they jack up the price rent, act like it's a more valuable property, and they get higher rent pay, and then those people that were booted out and giving preference to the immigrants are now homeless, and there really isn't enough rental properties for the amount of people that they brought in. If they just brought in 5,000 people, it probably wouldn't have been that big a deal, but oh no, they went complete greed crazy and brought in 20,000 people on a town that's just the size of 50,000. Okay, so they're not looking at the percentages, they're not looking at, what it's doing to the locals, and then they're, worse than that, they're basically defaming the locals nationally and globally, calling them racist if they dare bring up the things that these people are doing. And and it's a horrible situation. But I just want you to see that it really is about the money. When they're getting millions, okay, this little town of 50,000 are getting money from the government. And so that's why they're doing what they're doing. They don't care about these people. And what it actually promotes, this law, and what really needs to be done is these legislators, such as, I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, whatever, these people that pass these laws and they don't think it through in the bigger picture of what this can affect. What they need to do is they need to give a ratio to populations on how many migrants they can take per ratio of population. I mean, it's just common sense, you know? And then if they need to pass laws that if any safety risks such as what's going on where they're ignoring criminal activities, and it doesn't matter if it's just a misdemeanor, these people are repeatedly doing the same things. You know how many wrecks there are? They don't care. They just don't care. And then you have companies who are only hiring immigrants. You know, Tyson took a lot of heat because they were laying off people and then hiring immigrants, and then the media denies it. What is the media getting out of it? Why are they doing this? Well, the left, obviously, they want more democratic power that they get, and then it's a percentage. It's a percentage of people that vote, and they've across the nation have many states who've been pulling out votes. People are not even eligible to vote or they're voting anyways. So really and truly, here's my thing. It's about segregation. When you take 20,000 black people from a country that's pretty much primarily black and you dump them all in one place, that's a form of civil rights violating segregation. Why would you do that? And I think that our legislators need to pass laws that prohibit taking all that amount of people and putting them in one spot. Why are these laws being used to segregate? Why are they segregating an entire race of people like this? And it's wrong. Our civil rights leaders from decades ago fought against segregation. And this all across our nation, though. They're just dumping minorities in mass amounts in one place. They should be able to get provision from the government wherever they go in our country. Not receive the handout from the local community. You see what I'm saying? Because just imagine if somebody comes into the country on refugee status and they're allowed to go wherever they want and still get a provision, a temporary provision, it wouldn't affect the housing. It wouldn't affect jobs. You know, that's the sad thing is I think a lot of these people come here, they have no idea, especially in Springfield, that all across the United States of America, in cities, if you go and look around, there's help wanted signs in practically every fast food place, many retail places, and maybe that's not the best jobs out there, but still jobs. And they're struggling jobs. And you even see it in one of the interviews where they said, oh, they're wanting work. And I think some of them are struggling to keep jobs. And I have seen interviews with some, I think they were from Congo, and they had lost their jobs with Tyson. And Tyson was taking a lot of backlash, and so they had boycotting and whatever reason, you know, they lost their jobs with that company. And so they're totally relying on certain companies. And I don't think that you should be streamlining money into specific corporations like that. That's absolutely not appropriate. Okay? So I think that these immigrants should just go anywhere. And I think that if they're giving them work permits, I'm most certain that there's places across the country that will hire them. They got a work permit, you know. They have no idea how limited they really are. And if they would just travel and go to smaller towns across the nation, and then there's churches across the nation, like there's local pantries and local ministries in so many places across our country. It's one of the most charitable countries. I mean, like literally, and just to exhaust resources in one place is just, well, dumb. And so if somebody is an immigrant and you're listening to this video, seriously, go take whatever resources you have and just leave. When you see a congested area like this, this is not good. It's not healthy, and it's certainly not what America represents. And just because they're violating local laws, all you're doing is causing people to resent what's happening. You know, if I was coming here, and I've lived in other countries, so I know what it's like to go in a country where I don't speak the language. I've been in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Iraq, South Korea, all over Europe. I have been in many countries where I didn't speak the language, right? And the first thing I do is I break out my book and I learn the language, at least where I can go, make change, get something to eat, ask for directions. You know, it's not that hard. And then, you know, I will just try to meet people of that community And before I left Europe, I had people offer me to come stay with them. I mean, there was some really nice people, and I didn't ask for that. It was just, you know what I'm saying, just try to meet people. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to just get in situations where the locals are just nasty and greedy and be used by them, and that's not healthy. And I'm telling you, there's places across America, there's ministries that will help people. There are so many. I mean, there's this big country with many states, many cities, many towns, and they all have pantries. They all have ministries and local churches. That's the best thing you can do, and just really embrace the country. And I know, like, a lot of people probably, they just want to be maybe around their own people, you know, and their own customs, where you will see, you know, and that's okay. I get that too. And I think if a few of these people in Springfield, I just pray that they just get the heck out of there, you know, and stop letting these locals use them for that federal money that they're getting. And it's not a good situation for them. Those people are just, it's not a good situation. And it's not the American dream. They could do so much better if they just branch out and just go just take a bus ride, go find a town, and, you know, find a job, you know, say, okay, I'll be back in a few days, find an apartment, and then just start over somewhere else. These congested areas, they're bad. And look what they're doing in New York. Let's talk about New York. New York City. They literally evicted 40,000 immigrants because they couldn't find jobs. It was too congested. They're just taking up all the local resources. That's why I'm like, y'all need to get out of there. And then those there's like time limits too on the resources, you know. But we as people of this country need to demand our legislators change this law, the Department of Homeland Security, and what they're doing with our tax dollars and the money, you know, from the United States Treasury, and use the money more wisely and hold communities accountable who are receiving this money. Put caps, put a ratio of population on how many immigrants they're allowed to receive. That's like the first thing they need to do, right? I mean, would you agree with that this would be an appropriate thing to do? Come on now, people. Really? So would you please call your legislator and request this? Thanks. Bye.